Hello and welcome to Cycles of Time, your weekly guide to what's happening on Earth as we make our revolutionary journey around the sun. For time immemorial, our human ancestors have created myths and meanings to help us adapt and thrive as seasons change. Join me each week to explore the intersections of these ancient cycles, from the indigenous medicine wheel to the pagan wheel of the year, the Babylonian and Greek zodiac to the I Ching, the ancient Chinese book of changes. I'm your host, Allison Dale, and this is the Cycles of Time podcast. Hey there, sweet ones. Welcome to Cycles of Time. Feels like it's been a while since I've talked to you because I've been on a trip to Central America, to Costa Rica, and I've recorded the past several episodes before I left, and so haven't been in the studio for a while, and it feels nice to be here talking to you. I've been messing around with YouTube video stuff because I think I'm going to be launching a video YouTube channel for Cycles of Time for the astrological year of 2025 into 2026, and I'm still debating it. Because it's like a whole new ball game. And this lovely audio studio feels so comfortable, kind of like, my radio station days back in college of just talking out into the city from a small, cozy little room with sound panels and salt lamps and paintings and things like that. So video, it's like, I've been encouraged to do it. I think I'm going to do it. We are currently this week in the Human Design Gate of Doubt. So, it's an interesting gate to be in right before the launch of a new year and a new astrological cycle because, doubt is creeping in at the moment right before I have to make the choices. And so I'm curious how you all feel during this gate of doubt. It started over the weekend on Saturday. So I definitely woke up on Saturday feeling just so much doubt about all the things, about what I'm doing, about what's going on in the world and all the choices. And so if you're feeling that, it is not abnormal at all. That is where we are at. That's the gate that the sun is transiting through. And then on the opposite side of the sky, the earth is in the gate of confusion, which is my natal sun gate. And so doubt and confusion are all around us at this moment in time. And, the thing about doubt and confusion is that they lead us to reflection and revisiting the past and also creating logical frameworks through picking at the holes of things and being skeptical and asking the right questions to create more formulas for how things can actually work. So lots of contemplations on doubt and confusion right now, and lots of contemplations on Pisces and this ending of the year, and thinking about entering Aries season in a couple of short weeks away from now. There is a lot of energy, we're on this fluidic cusp. I feel like it's the birth canal. It's like Pisces is the womb. The season we're in is the womb, and it's this place of gestation. And Aries is coming through the birth canal and getting that first dose of light into our eyeballs and cutting the umbilical cord and starting a whole new life cycle. So there's so much going on between the gates, or between the areas of Pisces and Aries, with a lot of planetary activations there right now in March. So we'll talk more about that, but just feeling like I'm in that Pisces soup and about to enter an Aries new era. I'm so curious how you all are feeling out there. So much happens every day. We're in this deluge of shock and awe, overwhelm of information. And I think that that's adding water to the existing watery nature of the cycle that we're in. So it's a bit of a waterlogging kind of feeling right now. So if I'm a little all over the place, I'll just say, hey, Pisces. Anyway, the astrological year is winding to a close. And so I am, in addition to the soupiness, I'm feeling this kind of shimmering and shaking beneath the earth as the seeds begin to soften underground with anticipation and know that the springing upward of Aries season is right around the corner. I've talked about this many times, but I just love how the season of the ram is represented by a glyph that represents a ram's horns, but also a sprouting plant. And Aries season this year arrives on March 20th with the spring equinox and the pagan holy day of Ostara. And so I'm going to be wrapping up my first season of Cycles of Time. I started last spring equinox, and we're edging up to the spring equinox of this year. So I'm wrapping up my first season with a super special Pisces season double guest episode next week. And I'm welcoming a couple of really special guests, Britton LaRue and Jonathan Coe, two Pisces suns who are just wonderful thought leaders and thinkers in this space. And they're going to come on to talk about the power of doubt and confusion. Their sun is in the gate of doubt. Their suns are both in the gate of doubt, and mine is in the gate of confusion. So we're going to have a conversation about how to really tap into the power and the energy of doubt and confusion in order to create imagination, to use imagination and find truth through the process of imagination and truth seeking. So it's going to be a juicy conversation. I'm really excited about it. And because of that happening next week, I'd like to give all the airtime I can to that conversation next week. So I thought I'd spend this week's episode recapping the final 3 gates of Pisces season, starting with that gate of doubt that we're in this week, and then moving to the gate of grace and the gate of crisis. So, Venus just went retrograde on Saturday, March 1st. And so with that retrograde motion, I'm having this desire organically to review and reflect and reassess and kind of look at all of these gates in a row. So we'll talk about all of that and kind of do a 2-week forecast today so that next week we can dedicate to the interview and the deeper kind of conversation about what I think is just really important content right now, or important things to consider with doubt and confusion being so rampant in this world, being seeded deliberately. So stay tuned for that. It is this episode is going to be a lot about Pisces, obviously. We're in Pisces season, and it's, Pisces is a reflection of the entire zodiac and the entire wheel of the year and kind of the entire past wheels of all the years. It is this accumulation and collection of the collective consciousness of the past. And as Aries season is a seed sprouting and bursting above ground to start a new cycle, Pisces season is the germination stage of the seed below ground. And during this process, the seed absorbs Piscean elements of water and oxygen, and that causes the seed to swell and rupture in its seed coat. Then the embryo inside the seed begins to grow, with the radicle or the primary root emerging first before the green sprouts sprout above ground. And the process of germination is just so cool, and I feel it in my body right now. I feel this swelling. It feels like thawing. I've really been feeling that as I've been walking around my neighborhood after coming back from being in a really tropical climate and kind of being in this transitional moment in the northern hemisphere between winter and spring, and feeling super cold one day and then really, really warm and kind of sweaty the next day. And it just feels like thawing. It's I feel like my whole body and my emotional nature is thawing after a winter of kind of being frozen into a certain shape. So I wrote a little poem about germination, and basically it is: the seed, small and unassuming, cradles the whisper of a forest within. Wrapped in stillness, it waits, patient, listening, dreaming in the dark. Then, as if stirred by an ancient memory, the earth's warmth calls it to awaken. A crack forms, delicate yet inevitable, as the seed coat surrenders to transformation. A single root, pale and trembling, unfurls downward, seeking the embrace of the soil. Above, a tender shoot stretches toward the unseen light, blind yet certain, breaking through the hushed earth with quiet defiance. Moisture feeds it, the pulse of life quickens, and with every breath, it remembers its purpose. The first leaves, fragile yet determined, unfurl like tiny green prayers to the sky. What was once hidden now begins to rise, whispering of the life it will become, a tree, a flower, a promise fulfilled. Pisces is the season of poetry. What can I say? Who else is feeling like this deep kind of absorption and thawing and this like pulsing and throbbing and this like thing that can't really be named? It's like there's this this deep kind of underworldly sensation that I'm just so feeling right now. And, Pisces is certainly the star of the show over the remainder of Pisces season, and it goes beyond the sun's transit through the sign and the gates of the fishes. We also have Venus and Mercury retrograding back into Pisces after a dip into Aries. So both of the retrogrades that are upcoming over the month of March will start in Aries and go back into Pisces. So it's almost like they've kind of been a sprout that's sprung up into the sky and then said, oh, no, I need to go back down to like learn a little bit more from the mysteries of the seed for one last moment before I can really come out into a new cycle. Our first eclipse of the year, also coming up on the 13th of March, is on the Pisces-Virgo axis, and it is a lunar eclipse in Virgo that asks us to shed our fastidious and nitpicking Virgoan tendencies in order to make space for the kind of nonlinear dreams of spiritual Pisces. So Pisces is up right now. And, in addition to that, we are still in the age of Pisces. And I've been doing a lot of, for some reason, I've just been super compelled to go deep into the astrological ages. And as much as I love cycles of time for its moment to moment, week by week way that I feel grounded in my body about knowing that it's the same cycle every year for the most part, with shifting transits of the planets, but the same solar cycle. I love that. But in these times of crisis and times of uncertainty, I think a lot of people, including myself, are looking forward to some, what's going on in the bigger picture. Like, what is this all about? Is this the age of Aquarius? Like, what's happening? And so I've been doing a lot of research and contemplation on that and on the age of Pisces. And we are reaching the end of the age of Pisces. We have, depends on the source, but we have a good amount of time left, like beyond our lifetimes left in the age of Pisces. And so it is kind of the dawning of the age of Aquarius in the sense that we are in like the last phase of the age of Pisces, but we still got to really think about how important wrapping up one of the ages is. And so I'm excited to release, I think, one of my first podcasts of the new year, or YouTube videos, if I make that happen, is going to be about the kind of the end of an age and the dawning of a new age, and how that links into the 2027 prophecy in the human design. And it's all really, really fascinating, and just talks about how like the history that we know, that we've learned in our history books about the Enlightenment and the Renaissance and the Dark Ages and all of these different ages that we know in history can be really defined and synced up to ages or gates of Pisces season, like long lasting kind of micro seasons of the ages. And so just a little teaser for that. I'm really excited about it. And so Pisces is like beyond the sun season right now. It is really on my mind as far as like we are in a deep Piscean energy, and it's super transformative and it's super incubatory, super germinating. But there's a lot of like taunting of Aries. energy, being like, okay, time for action. Like, get the juice of the water of Pisces, like soak it up as much as you can, get healthy, get empowered, fill your cup up as much as you can, because it's going to be time to like burn the candles at both ends soon and jump into some action. So I digress. Let's jump into the highlights of this and next week. Basically, I won't go into all the transits, but hitting some of the major ones, we have Venus retrograde in Aries for the entirety of March into April 12th. It goes direct again, so it's a 40-day transit going backwards from Aries to Pisces, and I'm feeling it already. I don't know about you. We'll talk about that. We talked about it last week. Let me know how that sat with you. And March 13th to April 7th, Mercury will also be retrograde in Aries and going back into Pisces. So we'll have kind of a Venus and Mercury retrograde period over the course of the next month. We're also entering eclipse season this month, and the first eclipse is going to be the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo on Friday, March 14th. And so those are kind of the major happenings of the next couple of weeks. I did just put together a forecast for the month ahead of March that I can read you a couple of the others real quick, just because, you know, here we are. We're at the beginning of the month, might as well. But I posted it on Instagram, and it's really just kind of all of the transits that are happening for March. We have, basically Mars is in Cancer, kind of encouraging, it's fighting for loved ones and for our homeland and for the people that matter, vulnerable people that matter to us. And so there'll definitely be a strong emotional undercurrents as Mars continues through Cancer. It's not retrograde anymore, but Mars in Cancer is still kind of an interesting placement that we've just been so deep in with that retrograde. So it's, could make us feel sensitive and moody, and kind of like having an indirect approach to conflict. But definitely for me, I see Mars in Cancer as like fighting for the vulnerable, fighting for the home, fighting for, the ability to care for things that are important to us. So that feels really important and relevant over the next couple of weeks and into April, as well as Venus retrograde in Aries back into Pisces is just helping us reconsider what our values are, what's really important to us. And it's okay if they have changed since the last time you thought about them. We are in a whole new paradigm right now. Like, everything has changed, right? So it's a really great time to have this Venus retrograde in Aries. And we'll be feeling it pretty intensely this week up ahead, because it's just starting. It's really just kicking into full gear. And so it's, an opportunity to balance how we assert ourselves with our compassion and vulnerability in matters of the heart. Then Mercury retrograde won't happen until March 13th, so we won't talk about that too much today, but it's, it's the same, like reviewing how we communicate, taking things slow, knowing that communications issues could come up. The lunar eclipse in Virgo, I'll talk about a little bit later. And then on March 29th, we have a solar eclipse in Aries, which marks the final chapter of the transformative Aries Libra eclipse series that we were in for the past year and a half. And now this is the final one of those Aries eclipses, which kind of reminds us how we got here, to like our hunger for sovereignty and our hunger for personal expression. And then at the end of March, Neptune is entering Aries after 11 years in Pisces. And so it's that's a big transit that we'll talk about later. But I just wanted to mention, like, there's a lot going on in March. Most astrologers are going to say that this is the most intense, pivotal month of the year. And then it kind of calms down after this a little bit. But there's just one, eclipse season, retrogrades, Neptune moving into Aries. All of these things are really, really intense. In the sense of feeling changes and also being in a place to really reconsider and review and like shift some things within our internal world. So I see, the cosmic birth canal as this shift between Pisces and Aries, the season of the womb, to the season that sprouts up and ushers new beginnings, and then back again. It's like we're really on that cusp, and we're very aware of the imminence of radical new beginnings in our personal lives and in the world around us. It's already happening. It's already there. We're still kind of going through the motions, like we're still going to work, we're still clocking in, we're still sitting in meetings, we're still, taking our kids to school, doing all the things. And I'm not saying that that's all going to just abruptly change, but there is some major non-normalized shifts happening right now. And so what this month is all about is kind of not the knowledge that we're on this cusp between the old world and new world, and just thinking about where our agency lies within that, how much we need to surrender and just release expectations and assumptions, and just knowing that we can't really truly spring forward into a new cycle represented by Aries in the zodiac without looking at our roots or at the soil that will nourish whatever is coming next. And that's Piscean stuff. So March. It's crazy. And then over the next couple of weeks in human design and the I Ching wheel, we have this week, we are in the gate of doubt, which is gate 63. Then from Saturday through next Wednesday, the sun moves into the gate of grace. And then next week, Thursday through the following Tuesday, the sun is in gate 36, the gate of crisis. And that is when the lunar eclipse is going to happen. And that lunar eclipse is in the gate of friction. So there's definitely, that's not to scare you, not to put any kind of negative words into your mind. There's a lot of potential in crisis and friction, and that's kind of the whole point. But I wanted to, just guide us through these upcoming gates. And the themes for the next 2 weeks, which I've been discussing, are the astrological year coming to an end, Pisces season coming to an end on March 20th. So I got a little bit of time, 20 more days. And then eclipse season is beginning with that lunar eclipse in Virgo. And that's taking us from the Aries Libra eclipse cycle to the Pisces Virgo eclipse cycle. We have one Virgo eclipse, then one Aries, but then for the next year, we will have only Virgo and Pisces eclipses. And basically what that's about is that we have been, over the past couple years, we've been releasing people pleasing, and now for the next upcoming time we'll be releasing perfectionism. And over the past little while we've been hungry for self-sovereignty, and now we're shifting in the collective to be kind of more hungry for connection to spirit and to something greater than ourselves. The retrogrades over the next month, and the Venus retrograde especially over the next, that's already begun, is asking us to review and revision and reassess in the areas of what we value and how we relate to others and how we communicate and move through space. So that is our themes. Reviewing, releasing, being on the cusp, being in the liminal space, knowing that action will be needed soon. So fill your seed up with water. In the wheel of the year, finally getting to this, we're in the medicine wheel direction of east, which represents earth, spring, birth and childhood, and physicality. The whooshing 5-element cycle element is wood, that upward growth of springtime. In the pagan wheel of the year, we're between Imbolc and Ostara. Ostara is the spring equinox, so we'll dive into that then. Zodiac sign of Pisces until March 20th. The moon phase this week is waxing, and next week is the full moon eclipse in Virgo. And then the I Ching hexagram and human design gates are 63 doubt, 22 grace, and 36 crisis. So let's jump into those. I think that I've said enough about Pisces and I've said enough about the eclipses that are not quite relevant yet. So this week, really going to just talk about the 3 human design gates that will lead us out of Pisces season before the gate of innocence, or the spirit of the self, welcomes us into a new astrological year. This week, doubt. It is known in the I Ching as after completion, or already fording, like already fording the river. And the trigrams are water over fire, kind of indicating that a fire is under a pot of water and the pot of water is bubbling. It's like everything is coming together, fire under water, to complete the cycle. And it's interesting because the 63rd hexagram is not the final hexagram. The 64th is, and the 64th is known as before completion. So it goes from 63 after completion to 64 before completion. And that's very Taoist and very kind of like a Zen koan. It's like this thing that creates a little bit of discomfort in your body because you're like, oh, I'd love for the last one to be, after completion and just like put a nice little bow on it. But the whole point here is that this is a cycle, obviously. And the I Ching, all of the wisdom within the I Ching is about how we live in a cyclical world. And so after completion is before completion. And whatever truth you find in gate 63, truth is one of the keynotes to it, means that that truth will probably dissolve and lead to confusion, and then through the process of imagination, we birth a whole new cycle. So in the gene keys, the shadow of 63, this week's gate is doubt, and that can come through as suspicious or distrustful, kind of being skeptical of what's being presented. And then the gift is inquiry. So using that doubt not to shut things out, but to inquire and to ask questions and to be open-minded. And then the city, the highest frequency of this gate of doubt is truth. So gate 63 is in the head center in the body graph, and it has a mental pressure to critically question and pursue truth. It is the mind's drive to analyze and test and refine ideas, refine systems and beliefs. And this is to ensure that what is accepted as truth has been rigorously examined. It represents the energy of uncertainty, but this uncertainty is not a weakness, but instead a tool for progress and innovation and deeper understanding. In the I Ching, this after completion hexagram symbolizes a time when a major cycle has been completed, but new challenges emerge. And so there's a delicate balance happening where if like the water pot over the fire is maintained, then there's the ability for it to bubble and create a beautiful stew. But if it's disturbed, you can splash hot water over everything and then confusion arises. So this hexagram kind of reminds us that even when things seem settled and kind of like boiling away, questioning if it's in the proper configuration is essential to maintain stability and prevent stagnation. Basically, 63 has a challenge that basically we don't want to turn our doubt. Doubt is fine, but if you turn doubt into fear instead of inquiry, then problems can arise. If you're like, oh no, that pot's boiling on the fire, is it okay? And then you kind of just like shuffle things around a lot and get really like freaked out. It could fall over and splash hot water over everybody. But if you inquire like, oh, has that been set up properly? And you use this process of inquiry to tap into, to make sure that everything has been set up properly, then it can lead to the bubbling pot turning into like a beautiful meal for everyone. So sometimes I just like looking at the hexagrams as like a very literal thing. And so basically, yeah, seeking deeper truth rather than undermining confidence. There's such a fine line with this gate, and it's been coming up a lot for me in my personal life of like recognizing how when somebody brings a doubt of like, do you think this is going to work out, or like to the table, but they present it as like it comes across as fearful, it can really kind of like derail an entire undertaking. And if you bring it with a sense of inquiry of like, oh, have you considered this? Like, have we thought about this? Like, what do you know about this so far? Like, the questions are so important this week. And I think open-ended questions are the most important type of question to go into. I think right now with the amount of the storm in the news cycle that's happening right now, it's like important to stay up to date. But when you're bringing the information that you learn about what's just happened with X government agency or whatever to your family or friends, I've noticed that like when that comes through of like, oh, have you heard about this? And did you hear about this? And did you hear, like, if it comes across as this kind of like, I already feel the sentiment of fear around it and I'm going to deliver it that way, then that can like quickly kind of be like this toxic, almost like a poison being put into water and spreading through within a group of people. So when I was in Costa Rica, I was with several friends and we made a pact before we went to ask questions like, hey, is this a good time to bring up something that I just read in the news? Or like, hey, I'd really love to talk about something that is on my mind, and it would help me to process, or it would help me to just get it off my chest, and to not only bring up why or what it is that you want to talk about, or ask if it's okay to talk about something in a moment, but also about what that's going to do for you, is how that's going to serve you. And it felt like a really good thing to do, just to like, it was some friends that live across the country, so hadn't seen each other in a while. And I was feeling like I could go into this trip with them and have it be completely just like, turn into endless hours of just like processing and emotions, which is great and fine. But with this spirit of inquiry, it's just asking like, hey, do you have the bandwidth to talk about this right now? Or like, do I? And productivity, like finding truth and distilling the truth will come when a spirit of inquiry is embraced as a path to clarity, rather than bringing the anxieties that you have and just like kind of like word vomiting them onto the table. So definitely thinking about this. It's coming up very directly right now. And I am by no means perfect at this at all, at like knowing I have a lot of doubt. So I'm a skeptical person. I love to research. I love to like get information. And so I am saying this for myself to remember that doubt can be a really good thing. It can be a tool that sharpens perception and deepens our wisdom. And it's not a flaw. It can really lead to honing, more and better versions of the truth in your own mind, or when in conversation with other people, where that clarity kind of emerges from within. So the themes of the Gate of Doubt are mental clarity, questioning, skepticism, analysis, insight, innovation, wisdom, and truth. And over the course of this week, again, this is from March 1st, Saturday, to the 7th, through Friday, some contemplations that you can ask yourself are, how can I use doubt constructively instead of allowing it to create fear? Am I stuck in overthinking, or am I directing my questioning toward meaningful discovery? And then finally, how can I develop trust in my inner truth while still allowing for critical inquiry? So these questions I have on the Substack at astrosomatics.substack.com in the written transcript, and I'll also post them in the show notes because I feel like those are some really nice contemplations to think about this week. We're like so trained in this culture to be not non-doubting, like to just accept certain things as truth, or we're trained to see doubt as something that is a negative, I feel. And it can feel really destabilizing in your body to always be doubting everything. It's the opposite of faith, which is kind of the largest keynote of the age of Pisces. It's like, have faith, trust in the systems, trust. And now that those systems are being eroded and, the God on high is like not necessarily, or like, can I trust that? We're starting to have to trust our inner light a lot more. And I think that really came through in COVID times in 2020 when people were like, wait a second, who can I trust? Which agency, what government, which people can I trust that they've are taking the correct precautions? And it was, just a daily practice of learning how to move through the world without unnecessarily having like an overarching body of religion or government or medicine or whatever to trust. And so we're in this birth canal and in this threshold of like figuring out how to know ourselves enough to trust ourselves and to understand where things are coming from. So when it comes to doubt, I would say one of the best things to do is to not turn it inward as much as possible. If something comes up and you're feeling like doubt arises, it's really easy to turn that doubt towards ourselves and be like, well, am I doing anything right? And that can just derail and unravel. But if you actually turn that around and use a spirit of inquiry and use that doubt to ask questions of the world at large, or the things that can be constructively improved in your immediate environment, then it can really be, it can lead to that meaningful discovery. So that's the Gate of Doubt, Gate 63, Monday through Friday this week. Then Saturday through next Wednesday, we're moving into the Gate of Grace. The sun is transiting into hexagram 22, which is known as grace or adornment in the I Ching, and the trigrams are mountain over fire. In the gene keys, grace, it has the shadow of superficiality, that can come through as self-doubt or pretentiousness, just kind of being really insecure about what is happening about ourselves, right? And the gift is graciousness, and then the city is grace. So Gate 22, Gate of Grace, is about emotional refinement and presence, and having the ability to soften life's harsh edges with beauty and kindness. It's the gate of charm and poise and natural elegance. And that's not just in physical appearance, but in the way we express emotions and move through life. In the I Ching, hexagram 22 is called adornment, and so it symbolizes how beauty and influence arise not from superficial appearances, but from having an inner alignment. And that image of mountain over fire suggests a steady presence illuminated from within. So a beautiful big mountain that has a nice steady fire burning within it. And that signifies a dignified and warm energy that can uplift others simply through presence. So in the story arc of Pisces, it's coming after the gate of doubt. It's like after we have used our doubt and our inquiry process to reach a certain truth, we can find the truth is in ourselves, right? It's not found outside of ourselves, and it's found through inquiring about things that might seem a little off. And once we can clear and quell those doubts about what we think might not be right, we can find that stillness and that grace inside ourselves. And I think about graceful people. I'm not the most graceful person myself. I can be really awkward and clumsy, and I think that usually comes from getting too in my head and having too many data bytes like circulating around. I think grace is an embodied gate, and it is located in the solar plexus center. So you're coming from the head, the doubt is in the head, and then grace is in the solar plexus, and that's the emotional center. And it's almost like we've brought mental chatter through the process of inquiry down into our bodies, into our solar plexus, and into our emotions, and allowed us to kind of integrate and process those emotions. And I think that the most graceful people that I know are able to let their emotions flow through themselves and not get caught up on an emotion, because you tap in their foot. You could see people that are kind of really anxious and let that doubt create anxiety. And we all have that possibility that happens to every one of us, but it can, in a habitual way, it can really start to stop it can be a blockage for emotions to flow through anxiety, right? And so grace is taking all of the doubt and inquiry, making it into inner truth, and then having a steady presence of that warm energy within us. And so it's linked to the realm of emotions. It carries the ability to express feelings with refinement and awareness, and it influences others through the quality of its emotional states. In its shadow, though, it can be a superficial kind of grace, I guess. Basically, like having to double down on your own worth or projecting an exaggerated persona to mask the insecurity. So I'd say superficiality is a mask, and masking is a huge topic of conversation these days, as far as like a lot of people who self-identify as neurodivergent use the term masking a lot. And I think this is really interesting, because I think that masking is something that does happen with a lot of people, having to kind of like, well, I got to just step up to the plate kind of thing. But it's not really a warmth that is radiating from inside. It's just slapping a mask on. So, when it's fully embodied, though, gate 22, the gate of grace, really helps us radiate effortless grace and demonstrate the power of emotional wisdom and stillness and authenticity. So gate 22 teaches us that grace is not about perfection, and it's about moving through life with presence and openness and the ability to transmute suffering into something beautiful. Gate 22 reminds us that true influence on others comes not from force, but from the way we carry ourselves, the words we choose, and the emotions we embody. And I can't not think about the Zelensky-Trump meeting at the Oval Office. It just happened yesterday from when I'm recording, and so it's like really fresh. I didn't watch the full thing, but saw a lot of clips, and just seeing that the opposite of grace happening with these political leaders from this country, like force and emotional, just like losing it. Like, if we think that that's going to influence anybody, it's like absolutely not. It seems like this kind of grasp for power, like a parent who like has completely lost control of their child long ago and is like insulting them and asking them, you haven't said thank you, when's the last time you said thank you to me for raising you, kind of thing. And like this just like terrible. I just was reminded of just like how much patience it is required to be a leader, a parent, a leader, anything, and how much grace is what really influences people and not force or power. So the themes of Gate 22 that will be in effect through the weekend, this upcoming weekend, the 8th and 9th, and through next Wednesday. The themes are elegance, refinement, emotional expression, charm, presence, authenticity, influence, beauty, and wisdom. And some contemplations for that are, how can I embody grace in my words, actions, and emotions? Am I expressing my emotions with authenticity, or am I performing for approval? And how can I transmute difficult emotions into wisdom and beauty? All right, so that takes us through the week and into next week. And then I will finally talk about the Gate of Crisis. I'll probably tap on this a little bit next week in our conversation, because that'll be the gate that is active next week, at the end of next week. But let's dive into it now. It is hexagram 36 in the I Ching, and it is known as darkening of the light. And again, it's the last gate of Pisces season. So it's right after this, we go into the gate that spans Pisces to Aries, which is gate 25. And it's mostly in Aries. And it's about innocence, like that sprout that springs up from the ground, the innocence of a new beginning, a new chapter. So the final full gate of the astrological year is this darkening of the light, which makes perfect sense. Once again, birth canal, womb, we're in the darkness. And the darkening of the light just really reminds me of birth canal metaphor. And the trigrams are earth over fire. This kind of tells the story in the I Ching of inner radiance, that radiance that we found in the Gate of Grace through finding our inner truth. It's like we're in the womb. We are like, oh, I'm thriving here, right? Like, this is good. But then all of a sudden, dun, 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 darkening of the light, the radiance is temporarily obscured by darkness. And the image of earth over fire symbolizes the struggle of light being buried under heavy circumstances, perhaps. And that's the earth, like taking a shovel full of earth to put out a fire. And this hexagram reminds us that times of crisis are temporary, but how we navigate them determines our growth. So again, birth canal metaphor, really, or like thinking of that seed, like shooting its, after it's germinating, shooting its root down deeper into the darkness before it springs upward into the light. That is what's going on here in this final gate of Pisces, is embracing, like, that we've found peace within the primordial soup, and we've found like a deep sense of spiritual clarity within the boundarylessness of Pisces, of the soil, of the womb. But then soon after that, like that, we recognize, like, you can't just stay there forever. It's time to now put that into action, into the new cycle. And so we have to navigate that growth. It's scary. Imagine being a little seed that's had a shell all around it, and that's all you know, and then suddenly it's like filled with water and then it's cracking open, or like, being born in any way, shape, or form is fucking scary. So, that's what the Gate of Crisis is all about. But it's like worth it, right? A seed sprouting, worth it. Being born, totally worth it. Yeah, it's also in the solar plexus center. It's emotional. It is tied to, like, unpredictability and the need to experience things before anything new can emerge. And sometimes people who have this gate activated, or when the sun is transiting through this gate, we are thrown into intense or chaotic situations and have to learn through experience how to manage emotional turbulence. And the shadow can manifest as either extreme emotional repression or over dramatization. Drama queens thrive here, and it's kind of either avoiding crisis altogether and being like, nah, I'd rather not sprout today. Like, I'm going to stay, try to keep your seed together, even though it's like inevitable that it's cracking open. Or becoming addicted to the emotional intensity and just like needing more and more of that, staying in it for too long. That's how the shadow can show up. At the gift level, humanity emerges when, and this is the gene keys here, the gift and shadow levels. Humanity emerges when we learn to embrace emotional experiences without that associated fear and recognize that the emotions and these experiential processes of new darknesses are essential for growth. So yeah, gate 36 is about emotional experience and knowing that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger kind of vibes, and that we can transform through challenge and be initiated into wisdom through hardships. And, it really taps into the emotional ups and downs that come with life and teaches us about resilience and patience and compassion for ourselves and others. True wisdom comes from living through life storms and emerging with a deeper sense of empathy and understanding. And so this is a journey from raw emotional suffering to compassion, where one's struggles become a source of healing for both self and others. And rebirth is a big piece of this. So the themes, again, this is going to be next week, Thursday through Tuesday. Themes are emotional growth, challenge, transformation, turbulence, experience, resilience, compassion, birth canal, seed cracking open. These things. Contemplations for the Gate of Crisis are, how can I embrace emotional challenges as part of my journey instead of resisting them? Am I avoiding my emotions, or am I getting lost in them? And how can I develop resilience without becoming numb to life's experiences? So as I mentioned, that's the last three gates of it's doubt to grace to crisis. And so you can kind of see it as this trajectory, this storyline, this process of, needing to pick things apart in order to find the truth, then using that truth to fortify ourselves and influence others through our radiant spirit, and then knowing that once we have gotten to that place of fortitude, again, something might come across to challenge us in order to really create something genuinely new, that can feel like it's a test to that radiance. And so it's like I Ching is all about just not getting comfortable. Every 6 days, the sun goes through a new gate or a new hexagram, and we are being requested to just look at the contracting and expanding and the ebbing and flowing nature of reality. So to finish up here, I will go into the lunar eclipse that's happening on the 13th, 14th. It's like in the middle of the night, so it's 13th in some time zones, 14th in some time zones. But that is in Virgo, and it is across the sky from the sun in the gate of crisis, in the gate of friction. So this is gate 6. Gate 36 and 6 are called programming partners. They're the gates that are across the wheel from each other. And so the lunar eclipse in the Virgo gate of friction, or also known as conflict in the I Ching, is kind of a turning point in emotional tension. I'd say this lunar eclipse, eclipses are always times when, in the lunar eclipse, the moon is being obscured by the shadow of the earth. And so the sun's light is kind of being blocked out. So that light of that, the sun in the gate of crisis will be blocked out. And so maybe it might feel like our emotional growth and resilience through experience is kind of being shadowed. And the moon in the gate of friction is a kind of about a period of tension and confrontation. And it's about discernment. Like in the gate of friction versus crisis, they can sound very similar types of frequencies. But friction or conflict is kind of bringing something to the light and then knowing whether or not to engage with it. And so what's going to be happening around this eclipse in Virgo is like, first off, a release of that discernment a little bit. In lunar eclipses on the south node, which is where this one is, we are encouraged to release. The south node is the tail of the dragon, and the north node is the head of the dragon. And so we're kind of like, the head of the dragon is hungry. It's wanting to chew on something new. And so what it's wanting to chew on in this case is that birth canal energy that I was talking about, is the imminent knowledge that we have to be born through trial and tribulation, and through experience and conflict, into something new. The Virgo moon, if it was not being eclipsed, would be telling us like, oh, well, let's have a balance point here. Let's think about how we could walk away. We could hold space for this. We could hold back. Like, do we want to be born or not? There's a lot more analysis in Virgo instead of the surrender of Pisces. And so, if it was, again, a normal full moon on the axis of the 6 and 36, Virgo and Pisces, it would be more of like a kind of a reflection point of like checks and balances to remember that we can kind of do tit for tat with this, and in order to get emotional clarity. But the eclipse here, and I'm just kind of riffing this as I go. I hadn't really written this out or thought about it, but it's making a lot of sense to me right now. Basically, when the moon is eclipsed, so the light of the sun and the moon is eclipsed, it's basically saying like, ground into your body. Like the Earth's shadow is the thing we're looking at in the sky in a lunar eclipse, rather than the light of the sun reflecting off the moon. And so you're not actually thinking about this balance point between like how much to engage and like how much to just go for it. You're actually just acknowledging that like, okay, the season we're in is saying we have to go for it. We're going to be born into a new paradigm and a new era. And I see eclipses as times when the Earth is making itself known through that shadow on the moon, or through the shadow on the sun, or in lunar eclipses specifically. So the shadow of the Earth cast upon the moon is saying like, hey, remember the Earth, remember your body, remember where you are in space, look down at the ground, touch the Earth, like put your hands in the soil and remember that like you are made of this earth, and this is what you need to fortify yourself for friction and crisis and conflict. And so, it's releasing the nitpickiness, like I said earlier, that Virgo's shadow shows up as nitpickiness. And I'm a Virgo sun here, so I can definitely say that that's true. Needing to like tear apart every detail in order to get to the answer and analyze every single thing. We are definitely, with this lunar eclipse, releasing that need to do so we can make space for just larger shifts, so we can make space for having spiritual faith and grounded energy of the earth during a major crisis and spiritual shift. So it feels really on the nose. I think that this eclipses always bring sudden realizations, kind of like the light switch goes off in a room and then you turn the light back on and everything has been rearranged very suddenly. So there can be some emotional clarity with eclipses about what or who is really aligned with your path. It could bring up kind of under the surface conflicts and in relationship, and offer an opportunity for releasing what comes to the surface. And it can influence group dynamics. It could be a tipping point in societal debates and activism or political situations where, that's kind of an obvious one. But the lunar eclipse is a great time to actively release Virgoan things. Virgo is routine, analysis, fastidiousness, sorting out ripe from rotten. And so sometimes, like in times like this, where we have to dream up new worlds and new possibilities and really embrace that like Pisces into Aries energy that is in like so many of the planets are highlighting right now. I love that Virgo is what's being released. Or what's needed to be released collectively right now, because we cannot get caught up on the same type of analysis that we have been in the last cycle. Like, it doesn't make any sense to decide what's right, like ripe and rotten, and what's like good and bad, based on what the way things have been. It's truly like of course we have to stay discerning and not just like surrender to what is. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we have to imagine completely new ways of being and imagine that like after all of this is shaken out, like what is going to rise out of the surface, like after the new era or the old era crumbles, what will be built in its place. And so keep the discernment. Discernment is within us, but the release is not holding on so tightly to what we think we know, and being open to possibilities of newness. The shadow sides of Gate 6, the Gate of Friction, where this lunar eclipse is happening, are emotional volatility and unnecessary conflict and or avoidance of deep emotional truth. And so those are the things that we are being asked to release. And that can be, depending on where the eclipse is falling in your chart, what house, you can learn about kind of like what areas of life these are going to show up in. But in general, for all of us, it's like this eclipse is going to kind of shake up the areas in which we hold on to the tit for tat kind of conflict energy, or that we're holding on to an avoidance of a deep emotional truth for the sake of keeping things smoothing things over. So that's the thing that's going to be released. And again, just shining, the earth is making itself known. And so it's a really great time to not practice manifestation rituals necessarily, but to ground, I think, breathing, really literally touching the earth. I think that's something I would advise for most of this month ahead, is connecting with nature as much as you can. It's allergy season here in New Mexico, and it's hard to get outside for a lot of people. But even just like planting some potted plants inside, touching soil, will really bring us closer to the Piscean nature of like this kind of like substrate that is soil, and watering it and like imagining those seeds being their own little individual realities that are soon going to break open. And once they do, once the seeds break open, that are generated by the past, they weave together with the plants above ground. Like if you plant a bunch of little seeds, they're going to sprout up, and you have to actually thin them out once they sprout up, because there's too much coming together. But that's inevitable that will happen. There will be community. There will be things kind of bumping up against each other once the newness has sprouted. But getting into just the metaphor here of the soil and the baby sprouts, and kind of like the interplay between the two, I think is really helpful during times of overwhelm, when there's a lot going on out in the world. It's really easy to turn to a doom scroll right about now. Really easy. Even if we told ourselves we were going to quit all the social media, it's like, that's not happening. And it's so easy. And so, yeah, I'm going to plant some stuff. Putting hands in dirt, it's been proven. If you're walking barefoot outside on the soil, or just touching earth while gardening or whatever, is so helpful to ground. And the culmination of these next 2 weeks is this lunar eclipse that is really asking us to ground into our own, into that grace, and into the resilience that we need to face conflict, and into the sense of inquiry and curiosity that is being highlighted this week. So with that, I will leave you and see you next week for this lovely interview. And then the week after that is Aries season, and who knows, I might have a YouTube channel. You can still listen to this podcast on Spotify or Apple Music or Substack or wherever it is that you listen to it. I will be doing an audio version as well, and no promises for the video, but I'm pumping myself up right now to get out into that realm, because it feels like a good challenge in authenticity to put myself out there that way. So we'll see. I do have a new website that just launched, astrosomatics.com. I have a limited availability at this current moment, but there will be a lot more throughout the course of the year, so I'll be mentioning it. But check it out. It's kind of distills my philosophies and offerings and, kind of services that I'm putting out there. So yeah, astrosomatics.com at long last, after 2 years of this project being named. There is a page about cycles of time as well, kind of that gives a little bit of insight into what each of these cycles are that I'm tracking and how they tie together. So yeah, check it out. I'd also love, continued follows and subscribes and likes on Substack, Instagram, wherever you hang out. It would be lovely to connect with you there. I'm at astro.somatics on Instagram and astrosomatics.substack.com. And you can find this all through my website, astrosomatics.com now. So hooray for that. I will see you soon. Have a beautiful, beautiful week of doubt, and don't get too hard on yourself. All the love. Bye.